I'm David Frangioni. Give the drummer some. Chris Frazier, Foreigner, here, Backstage.
Just doing my little warm-up routine with my my little mountain climbing
It's like
tool
a tennis
here.
ball, it looks like almost.
It's a mountain climbing tool. You can buy these at you know, at Ray or one of those places, you know. And it's kind of like a gyroscope thing. Once you get the thing going, it really develops your grip, you know. If you don't have like a practice kit or something like that, it's good.
And that's loosening up your wrists and
does.
just
It's
getting
sort of- yeah,
and
it
the
sort of
muscles up your arm.
It gets all the blood flowing in your arms and stuff, you know, and kind of gives you a little bit of a pump, and you're kind of ready to go.
All right, let's hit the stage. So we're here backstage, guys. We're walking. This is where Chris will be walking to the stage in a few hours for the show. Chris Frazier. If you didn't believe me already. Here we go.
So since last time you saw me, I had switched up the drums because I decided that I wanted to bring my classic Gretsch kit from the 80s out.
Okay. Are you a Gretchen Dorsey?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. And Garrison he was not perturbed, but he was confused for a little while.
Because you're a DW in Dorsey then.
Yeah, and I actually ordered a kit, and so it's going to be out here pretty soon, and so we'll switch back over to the DWs eventually. But you know, I've had this kit since 1980. I played Steve Vai records with this kit, you know, and but I've never taken it out on the road, and so I decided to take it out on the road this time. And
It's a big bass drum.
it's 24.
Okay.
We were using 26s before. That's a 24. It's a little tighter and
Superphonic?
that is a Black Beauty from the 70s.
Oh, nice.
That's the real deal.
With the
you know?
Superphonic throw-off.
Well, yeah, the newer Superphonic throw-offs are just a little bit more roadworthy. You know, you can't be having one of those like strings breaking in the middle of the show.
Was it a super sensitive and you switched it over?
Mm-mm.
No, it's always like that.
Yeah,
that's
always,
intact.
It was always that, yeah.
The 6.5 Black Beauty. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous. It looks in great condition. You've had
It's
it for
in
a while.
great condition. It really is. I have a 5-inch one too, and both of them are from the 70s, and both of them are like really great sounding drums.
And so what are you playing up here on this Gretsch kit?
So that's a 13-inch rack,
Okay.
standard size, 9x13. That's a 16x16 and a 16x18.
Okay.
The 16x18 is actually one from the 80s. It's got 4 legs on it,
Right.
which is what Gretsch used to do back in the day for the 18-inch.
Yep.
24-inch, 16x24-inch kick drum. That's the same size kick drum that Ross Garfield just swears by and pretty much rents to everybody whenever anybody
The drum
comes
doctor swears by it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the same size bass drum, same era bass drum that they used on Metallica, the Black Album.
Oh, nice. Wow.
And you'll hear it. Like if you're out front tonight and if you hear it, you'll see where that, you know.
So they didn't use Tama. They used that.
They used that. They used the Forest Green kit, if I'm not mistaken, that he has. He's got a bunch of them, you know, but that one is like, that's the biggest one he has. It's just every size on the spectrum they have.
That's Gretsch and the same shell type.
Yeah,
Okay.
Same era, because they did
Okay.
that, you know, in the late 80s was when they recorded that at One on One.
Yeah.
I've recorded at One on One. I love that studio. It's a great sounding studio.
And you got a DW side snare.
So that's an aluminum snare. It's a 1mm aluminum snare. It's the kind of their version of a Superphonic.
Okay.
But we have it tuned really low because that's our ballad snare drum for all the ballad songs. Like
So
we use
that's
that
I Want to
for
Know What Love Is.
and waiting.
And Waiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Huge Foreigner fan, if you haven't, but who isn't? Okay. You told me what your favorite song is that you rarely play. What's your favorite song in the set every night that you always play?
Well, we do Blue Morning. That's a fun song.
Okay. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
cool. That's
and
cool.
obviously, like we really stretch out Jukebox Hero. There's a lot of like shenanigans going on in that song.
Okay.
You know?
And tempo
We play
changes,
that song.
vibe
It's like a
changes.
10-minute song. You know, so yeah, there's some fun drum stuff in that. But it's right after the drum solo, so I really have to pace myself, you know. After the solo, I'm just like drinking water, just doing this with the bass drum, you know, drying off, you know, all kinds of stuff, just getting ready to.
It's a good thing it starts out kind of mellow.
So yeah,
Okay.
just kick drum.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Wipe my face off, drink some whiskey. Here's a nice little thing. This gong is just like one of my. things on the planet.
Zildjian?
This is actually a zing seer. It's like from Thailand.
Oh.
And I bought it from a gong enthusiast, this guy in Knoxville who has like 20 gongs. And, you know, this one in particular, I really like it because it, like, you know, different gongs have a different kind of like feels,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And most of the Paiste gongs, it sounds like, you hit a Paiste gong and it sounds like, you know, a lonely desert in the middle of the Sahara or something like that. It's very like hot sounding, like wah, you know, it kind of has that kind of desolate, you know.
Yeah.
This one sounds like a fucking dirty bog, you know, in Carpathia or something like that.
It's very zen. If you watch the latest season of The White Lotus as we as we're filming this, it's in Thailand and everything. It's got that vibe. So can we hear the kid a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's do it. Wow. So
Pretty nice sounding kid.
sounds incredible. Sitting here this close and listening, those drums, there's just a little bit of moon gel. And they sound very, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of resonance. They're wide open, and it's just, are these 15s? Yep.
15s, custom A's. But listen to that kick drum though.
It is the definition of a rock kick drum, man. That it's tight, but yet and like very, very defined, but my chest, it hits me in the chest,
Yeah.
and it's got enough resonance that it's big,
Yeah.
but not boomy.
Right.
It's the most bizarre thing, like it's not
See
so.
what I mean, man?
Oh, I'm telling you, it's like it shouldn't sound
sit it and
that.
play it.
It shouldn't sound that good. Oh my God, sit it and play it. After that, Jesus. Okay, let's see what we got.
Yeah.
It just keeps saying to you, play me,
See,
play
that's
me,
what
play me.
My whole attitude about this was like, if I'm going to be out on the road this much for this long per year, then I better fucking love the drums I'm playing. You know, it just should be a pleasure every night that you sit down on them.
Oh, these drums just, man. And you know what? I am not a big kick drum. I never play a 24 because it always feels a little unwieldy. It always feels a little too boomy. Like you go to do some stuff like we're doing, like some fast little combos, and it just gets like a little muddy. This thing's ridiculous. This responds like a 20, but it's got bottom like a 26. It doesn't make any sense, right? And
so I'm hoping that we can sort of get the same vibe happening with because I'm getting the same size from DW. I'm getting another 16 by 24. It's like my favorite size bass drum.
And these shells, so it's got the die-cast rims. So that's helping a lot.
Yeah.
And then it looks like a fairly thin shell, but not super thin.
So the bass drum, floor toms in the bass drum, like the 18-inch floor, is basically a bass drum. It's a 7.
Okay.
That's a 7-ply.
Okay.
And the bass drum is a 7-ply, but everything else is a 6-ply.
Okay, and there you go. All right, that's why these look a little thinner. You can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, not Black Beauty, man. I know Black Beauties are ubiquitous, and we've heard them quite a bit, but that's a special drum.
It's a nice drum.
Yeah, that's just not another Black Beauty.
I think it's actually one of the bronze ones, because when I sent a picture
Okay.
I sent a picture of it to John, and he wanted me to take a picture of the inside shell from the air hole, and he looked at it and he goes, "That's a bronze drum."
Wow.
So they were making. There was a time period there where they were still making bronze drums back in the 70s.
Okay. Well, it's a special drum, man. Backup snare.
This is my secondary drum. This is my backup snare. This is the snare that we use in certain rooms that the Black Beauty just doesn't work in. And this is an old Tama Birch Master Series.
Wow. Okay.
And
not a 6.5 though, right?
This is a 6, I think.
6. Okay.
But
looks a little.
I actually have one of those. I have one of those classic Tama bell brass from the 80s at home. I'm just terrified to bring it out.
Yeah.
It's going to disappear. So I just don't. I'm not going to bring it out.
Chris is out with Foreigner. 13 years with Foreigner.
Yeah.
And before Foreigner, Whitesnake. And who else? Give us your resume for a minute.
Well, when I first moved to LA, I was fortunate enough to answer an ad in the Music Connection, which was like a magazine kind of want ads thing for musicians back in the 80s. And I answered an ad. This guy wanted to put together a rock band, and it said in the ad, "Familiar with odd meters, under the direction of Steve Vai, call Marty." And so I called him, and I went out to Silmar to this house, and I played with this guy, and he was throwing all these crazy odd times, like stuff in 7/16 and 5/16, and alternating between, And it was a quick learning experience. I really had to kind of put my thinking cap on right away, but I got through it. And he went and got Steve and brought Steve in, and then I started playing with Steve, and kind of the rest is history. Like a week later, I was playing on the Attitude song. So, it was serendipitous, and it was a good break, and it really kind of helped me kind of get my foot in the door pretty quickly. So that was the kind of the first experience and the first gig that I got when I was in LA.
Steve Vai.
Yeah. And then I was doing some sessions here and there with different people, and got to play with one of the greats. I played on a Carole King record.
Amazing.
And she's very kind of shoot from the hip, She writes stuff right on the spot, right in the studio, and you record it and do it right there in the studio. Everybody's set up, everybody's playing. It's not build a song, Each guy comes in at a different time. It's like she wants the whole band there. She wants to work on the song. She wants to get the song in the bag, within 2 hours. So that was fun. There was a different way to work than Steve is. Obviously, Steve is very meticulous, and then got my gig playing with Edgar Winter. I've kind of played with Edgar Winter for a long time. I think I first got the gig with him in '91 or something, and played with him till about 2003 off and on.
Have you seen the documentary?
I haven't. No. I didn't even know there was a documentary.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, you gotta check it out.
And then, there's still some Vai gigs in there, here and there. We did a lot of touring.
So you stayed playing with Steve for years.
I did, off and on. I played with him. We did some touring. We did South America a few times. I went to Russia with him a couple of times, and we played toured the States with Bon Jovi and a few other acts and things. And
what's the biggest thing you learned from working with Steve Vai?
Well, I would say whenever you're practicing, A really good rule of thumb, especially if you're kind of a beginner or an intermediate drummer and you're kind of first learning and playing in your room or, playing with guys in high school or, college or things like that, is I can't stress the importance of playing with a click. Like if you're going to practice in your, sit down on the drums and play, get in the habit of putting a click on and working out all of your stuff that way, because people's feels tend to like move around a lot. And when you get in the studio and you're going to record a song with a band, or if you're doing a session with somebody and they got a click track, it's pretty eye-opening how much your tempo will move around if you're not accustomed to playing with a click. So kids always play with a click.
That was a big lesson.
It's a very, very good practice to learn how to play in time and to learn how to execute fills in time, because that's usually where the problem comes in. You can play a groove in time pretty easily, but the moment you start going for some of your tricks and things like that, you'll find you speed up. So it's a common thing. Every drummer does it. You just have to learn how to play with a click and keep in time, and learn how to tune your own drums, because there's a lot of guys out there that don't know how to do that. And there's a lot of great tutorials online. There's a lot, like John Good has tutorials online on how to tune drums. Ross Garfield, these guys are all masters at the craft. And, if you can get into a studio and make your drums sound great, you're halfway there. I know so many guys that don't know how to do that these days.
But you learned how to do it.
I learned how to do it pretty early on. And, Ross Garfield was one of the guys that showed me how to do it. John Good, but I also kind of learned how to do it from trial and error. I think that one of the reasons why DW is such a great company and such a great drum, especially for intermediate players too, is they're very consistent drums and they're really easy to tune. There's a lot of other companies out there. I'm not going to name any of them, but trickier drums to tune. It takes a little bit more skill to learn how to do it. And I think DW drums are a great drum to learn how to get a great sound with.
So can I bring you back and we do a drum tuning session together to give the drummer some?
Absolutely.
Because it is an art form.
It is.
And when you think about it, I don't know if I've ever met a stringed instrument musician who didn't know how to tune, right? But you're right. We meet drummers all the time, and they don't. That's not something that they're just really focused on.
They either rely a lot on their tech. That's why there's so many techs out there that have to learn how to. Kuntz really knows how to tune drums great, and he's not even a player. He doesn't really even play drums, but he knows how to tune them. And that's why Ross Garfield and J-Mo and Jeff Jonas and all these guys that were out there setting up drums for people and tuning them back in the day. They were busy guys because there were so many drummers that just didn't know how to do it. So that's another one, like learn how to do that. And, there's a lot of other practical things. You should really kind of listen to the groove guys and kind of learn how to try to emulate guys like, Bernard Purdy and
I heard you playing like a Porcaro kind of thing when you were grooving on the kit. It sounded very Rosanna-like. It was very rock leaning.
Yeah.
But it was great. And it had like that feel and nuance that, just makes a band cook. Like there's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, and the thing about a lot of those guys that I find, Gadd is one of them, and Porcaro is one of them, and even John Bonham was one of them, is that those guys knew how to kind of mix the drums from where they were sitting, Like if you really listen to John Bonham and you watch him play, he's not really that heavy of a hitter on the upper part of his body. He's more of like a kick-heavy guy. Like he's kicking the kick drum with a lot of initiative, but he's got a lot of finesse with the upper body.
So he's blending the limbs, how he wants it heard before it even gets to a sound.
Exactly. And so that's another thing, like the guys out there that are session guys that know how to groove their asses off. They also know how to kind of mix the drums while they're playing them. They don't really bash the hi-hat too hard, and they know how to hit the snare drum just right so you can efficiently pull the sound out of the drums. And I've always been I've always been under the impression that the best way to play drums is to pull the sound out of them as opposed to try to beat the sound out of them, you know? I mean, if you hit a drum just right and it's tuned just right, it's almost as if you're pulling the sound out of it, you know, because you're letting the drum breathe when you hit it, you know? And so learn how to mix the drums while you're sitting there. Get a good sound, you know, a good blend.
And that starts with listening to it, right? So guys will listen to the notes they're playing for accuracy or maybe even for feel or both, but they won't listen to from the mix standpoint, the blend.
Another guy is Jim Keltner. He's one of those guys that just knows how to like blend the drums. He's not really that heavy of a hitter, but man, he can pull an amazing amount of sound out of the drums, you know?
Yeah. No, it's awesome. All right, so how about a quick tip up in the dressing room? Let's head up there. All right, here we go, guys. So, all right. So, what tip can you give either for warm up?
It depends on if we're talking to people who are like intermediates and beginners, or if we're talking to advanced people.
Let's go intermediate.
I think that what I would like to probably start out with is like, what's your favorite rudiment? What is the rudiment that you think that you use more than any other rudiment, right? Okay. And you know, we all get taught the double stroke roll, and we all get taught the paradiddle, you know, and things like that, you know. But the one that I use probably when the Buddy Rich fill and the fill that all the guys do comes from a paradiddle-diddle, and it's this.
Okay, which is right, left, right, right, left, left?
Well, I'm a lefty.
Oh, so you're left, right, left, left, right, right.
So I'm a hybrid. Like I do a lot of right-hand lead stuff.
You're a lefty on a righty kit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I tend to do them, I go right, left, 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 or right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right.
Right. Yep.
You know?
Yep. And you're accenting the first two, and then you can really get it cooking with the doubles there.
And that's a very Buddy Richie thing, you know. He's always doing. So that's a good one to learn. That's a good one to practice, you know.
Okay, so let's slow it down.
See, no, the thing
you
is
turn it into a triplet, right? You kind of start at 16ths and then you start to swing it and roll it.
It is a triplet. It's like a triplet feel kind of thing. So it's. And so imagine you're hitting the snare drum, and then your toms.
On the singles. So the singles are going around the kit or accenting the snare, and the doubles are staying on the snare, so you get that continuity.
Yeah, and mostly right-hand drummers like. And then Vinny, of course, like will start throwing in kick drums, so that he has more like 5s and 7s.
But everything you just played with that polyrhythmic vibe was paradiddle-diddles?
It's all based from paradiddle-diddles.
And you're just moving the accent.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
And then every now and then, like adding in a kick drum, you know.
Fantastic.
And then Keith Carlock is the guy that does those all the time. He's like, what is his thing? That's Keith Carlock's thing. He's doing double strokes like this.
And mixing in the singles that are essentially paradiddle-diddles.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, it sounds, you can work up some great rhythms and great fills, and that's a sticking that when you really
so that's like that one there, the Keith Carlock one is like these are all like these aren't triplets, these are like quads, I guess what they were called, right? So it's all 16th notes.
Yep. Right. If we're doing it to a click, to that it's 30 seconds in this case, but 16ths here.
It's hard for me to do slow. I've always done it so fast.
You built it up.
he's
Love it.
I can do it. I can do it live, you know, if like in a minute, you know, in a pinch there. But
Chris Frazier, out with Foreigner. Check him out on tour. Modern drummer. I'm David Frangioni. Give the drummer some. And thank you for being here, my man. You're a great
thanks for
friend.
coming out. I wish you. Are you guys
Modern
gonna
drummer.
hang out and watch?
We're gonna hang. We're gonna see the show. We
Right.
can't wait. We love Foreigner. We love Chris, and I know you guys do too. We'll see you soon.